In the morning, she is an unnoticed radio host with a violent temper and a vengeful nature. In the afternoon, she becomes a disheveled parking attendant with a positive, optimistic attitude and a bit of shyness. En-hao, embodying the radio host persona, has been in a relationship with her boyfriend Hyun-mu for 8 years. Initially, they were inseparable, but eventually, they headed towards a breakup. Despite the split, they still work at the same place. Today, the news director asked Hyun-mu to host the 4 p.m. live broadcast. However, Hyun-mu has always been a morning radio host, working fixed hours from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m., a schedule that hasn't changed in 3 years. Despite her explanations, even citing that her presence has led to the highest ratings, the director insisted on the change, holding on to outdated ideas. The 4 p.m. slot is meant for a male and female co-host, not 2 males. As the argument escalated, Hyun-mu's ex-boyfriend Hyun-mu stepped forward, offering to take over the 4 p.m. live broadcast. Seeing Hyun-mu speak, the director immediately changed his tone, complaining about how tiring the afternoon show is and how it sometimes requires getting hands dirty on site to entertain the audience. Hearing this, Hyun-mu became upset, questioning why she should do the dirty work if Hyun-mu could not. Hyun-mu insisted on doing the afternoon broadcast, leaving no room for the director to argue. Meanwhile, Hyun-mu was still pondering over Hyun-mu referring to her as that person, which caused the director to explode in anger. Hyun-mu was tasked with convincing Hyun-mu to give up his spot, and she had to appear on the show before him. She believed Hyun-mu still loved her. Otherwise, why would he offer to stand in? Shocked by her confidence, Hyun-mu wondered if she had been drinking. In reality, he stepped up to avoid awkwardness. Hyun-mu didn't understand why Hyun-mu had only ever hosted morning shows. She explained that she had put a lot of effort into protecting her show and wouldn't switch easily. Upon hearing this, Hyun-mu came up with a plan to move the 4 p.m. live broadcast to the morning. Hyun-mu thought he was crazy. Even though Hyun-mu was a popular figure in the broadcasting department and the next likely anchor for the 9 p.m. news, he didn't have the authority to change showtimes. It seemed like a dream. Yet the time change happened, and to Hyun-mu's surprise, Hyun-mu became her co-host. The director explained that there wasn't enough time to prepare the originally scheduled host, so Hyun-mu stepped in. The more Hyun-mu thought about it, the angrier she got. She ended up confiding in Moon-ji-on, who had a crush on her. Despite Hyun-mu being 37, Moon-ji-on didn't care. She knew about his feelings, but never gave him a chance. Reflecting on Hyun-mu's recent behavior, Hyun-mu decided to seek revenge. She had read online that to get revenge on an ex, she needed to become more beautiful. So the next day, Hyun-mu showed up with her hair styled in big waves. Hyun-mu appeared before everyone and deliberately stepped out of the camera frame during the live broadcast. The director offstage was unsure who to film and had to play a recorded video instead. At the end of the show, the lines that Hyun-mu was supposed to say were taken by Hyun-mu. Angered, Hyun-mu stomped on him with her high heels and innocently asked if it hurt. Hyun-mu thought Hyun-mu stole her lines because she walked off camera, but he told her she was out of touch with reality. After 14 years, he claimed she had lost her professional awareness. Hyun-mu didn't understand what he meant until the staff told her her skirt had come undone. If Hyun-mu hadn't taken over, it could have led to an on-air mishap. Hyun-mu felt foolish and shared the incident with Moon-ji-on. Moon-ji-on bluntly said Hyun-mu must still like Hyun-mu. Perhaps to prove she didn't, Hyun-mu asked Moon-ji-on to date her and scheduled it for the weekend. Hyun-mu, who overheard, appeared indifferent but secretly recommended Hyun-mu for a weekend program filming marine debris out of town. This occupied her weekend, so Hyun-mu suggested rescheduling her date with Moon-ji-on to the following week. But Moon-ji-on was busy then, so he decided to join her on the shoot instead. A colleague relayed to Hyun-mu that Hyun-mu was taking Moon-ji-on on the trip. Hyun-mu asked a female colleague if they could finish filming that day, not wanting Hyun-mu and Moon-ji-on to share a room overnight. During the shoot, the rough seas caused frequent accidents. Just as Hyun-mu steadied herself, a wave knocked her down, causing Moon-ji-on to burst into laughter on the shore. Moon-ji-on's behavior was not out of disinterest in Hyun-mu. He simply believed there was no need to pretend to be overly affectionate. That evening, Moon-ji-on drove her home. As they parted, he asked if there would be another date. Ju Yun-ho didn't answer, but instead brought up her dislike for Jung Hyun-ho. She hated him because when they were together, she had proposed marriage, but Jung Hyun-ho had outright rejected the idea. Despite her efforts, she couldn't change his mind. Moon Ji-yeon scratched his head and told Ju Yun-ho to make a choice. If she said she wasn't interested, he would stop pursuing her. But if she stayed silent and did nothing, he would try even harder to win her over. Unsure of what to say, Ju Yun-ho was kissed by Moon Ji-yeon. The scene shifts to Ju Hyeri, Ju Yun-ho's disheveled second personality, working in a parking lot. Ju Hyeri remembered everything that happened to Ju Yun-ho, but thought it was all a dream. For this reason, she was seeing a psychologist. Ju Hyeri secretly admired another company's news anchor, Kang Ju-yeon, and often watched him from a distance when he parked his car. However, her shy nature kept her from approaching him, opting instead to hide her presence. Ju Hyeri's demeanor was a stark contrast to Ju Yun-ho's, speaking slowly and cautiously. Baek Hye-yeon, who worked at the same news company as Kang Ju-yeon, also had a crush on him, but Kang showed no interest in her. Ju Hyeri was always disheveled, which puzzled her colleagues. Her explanation was that she was too beautiful. She feared that if Kang Ju-yeon saw her face, he would fall in love instantly. On this day, Kang Ju-yeon's company was visited by unwelcome guests led by an older woman who believed Kang Ju-yeon's news report had caused their onions to go unsold. As a result, she and her group caused a disturbance. Just then, Kang Ju-yeon appeared, and the woman, demanding an explanation, picked up a weapon. While being harassed by the woman, Kang Ju-yeon was spotted by Ju Hyeri. Without hesitation, Ju Hyeri grabbed him and they ran, hiding in a corner until security escorted the woman away. Once safe, Kang Ju-yeon explained the incident, but his words deeply moved Ju Hyeri, compelling her to kiss him before walking away like a penguin, leaving a stunned Kang Ju-yeon behind. As Ju Hyeri arrived home on her bike, she was greeted by the voice of Jung Hyun-ho, who had just realized that his girlfriend of 8 years had a peculiar second personality, which made her walk like a monkey. Initially, Jung Hyun-ho thought this was a new tactic by Ju Yun-ho to avoid him, not realizing it was her second personality at play. Ju Hyeri's second personality, named after Ju Yun-ho's sister, originated from their close childhood bond. Whenever Ju Hyeri was hurt, Ju Yun-ho would cry incessantly. An accident one day led to the loss of Ju Hyeri, and following a breakup with Jung Hyun-ho, Ju Yun-ho developed a second personality. Ju Hyeri possesses all of Ju Yun-ho's memories, but perceives them as vivid dreams. Now, seeing her ex-boyfriend from her dreams in reality, Ju Hyeri sought her psychologist again. However, the psychologist explained that Ju Yun-ho and Ju Hyeri are in fact the same person. The doctor explained her diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder, but Ju Hyeri still couldn't believe it, insisting she just had amnesia. Her personality, Ju Hyeri, disappears every day at 4 a.m., replaced by Ju Yun-ho. Ju Yun-ho starts work at 5 a.m., finishes at 2 p.m., and after sleeping for an hour until 4 p.m., Ju Hyeri awakens. She then heads to her job as a car park attendant. Ju Hyeri has a crush on Kang Ju-yeon, a news anchor at the neighboring company, and often reserves parking spots for him. Today, she was exceptionally happy because she had kissed Kang Ju-yeon the night before. She boasted to her colleagues about her actions and even folded a pentagon star for Kang Ju-yeon. Confused by the unexpected kiss from a stranger, Kang Ju-yeon spent the day looking for Ju Hyeri, who kept hiding from him. Finally, in the evening, he confronted her at the office entrance while she was making a delivery. Kang Ju-yeon asked her coldly why she kissed him the previous night. As they spoke, Ju Hyeri started crying, which unexpectedly shook Kang Ju-yeon. Ju Hyeri had not anticipated such a harsh reaction. She thought he would be friendly, and the contrast overwhelmed her, bringing her to tears. Ju Hyeri cried all the way home, repeatedly saying she had been unreasonable. She also wrote about Kang Ju-yeon's angry reaction in her diary, a habit she maintained. At 4 a.m., the alarm rang, waking her first personality, Ju Yun-ho. After waking up and washing her face, she noticed some swelling but didn't know why. The day passed quickly, and it was time for Ju Hyeri's personality to emerge. She couldn't hold back and gave Kang Ju-yeon 1,000 folded stars. Inside was a note with Ju Hyeri's confession. Since then, Ju Hyeri often appeared around Kang Ju-yeon unintentionally, but sometimes she would hide out of shyness. Over time, Kang Ju-yeon became used to her presence, Tonight he sought her out to apologize, feeling he had been too harsh, causing her to cry. Now Kang Ju-yeon was unsure about his feelings for Ju Hyeri, which felt strange to him. Seeing him like this, Ju Hyeri repeated her confession. As both were about to leave, they stopped. Kang Ju-yeon seemed lost in thought, while Ju Hyeri tapped her fingers on a bicycle handle. Then they approached each other. Ju Hyeri expressed a desire to know him better after the kiss, and he was curious about her. Unexpectedly, despite just meeting, Kang Ju-yeon took her to his home. There, Ju Hyeri learned he had an older brother who had passed away, and his mother, who mistook him for his brother, suffered from mental instability. Ju En-hao was 37 years old, but Ju Hyeri introduced herself to Kang Ju-yeon as 28 years old and mentioned that her parents seemed to have died. She has no siblings, but now she has you. A woman wakes up terrified to find herself in a strange man's house. The dominant personality is Ju En-hao, completely overshadowing the second personality. Ju Hyeri doesn't dwell on last night's memories here. Ju En-hao cautiously picks up her clothes and prepares to leave. At the door, she sees Kang Ju-yeon's work badge. She runs to the company and starts looking up information about Kang Ju-yeon online, trying to recall what happened last night. A colleague approaches, puzzled by Ju En-ho's unusual outfit today, as he remembers her never dressing like this. Knowing this male colleague has many friends at Kang Ju-yeon's company, she asks him to inquire about Kang Ju-yeon. Meanwhile, the company needs someone to secretly investigate a marine program. A female colleague who trusts only Jung Hyun-o's reporting wants him to take on the task. However, Jung Hyun-o passes the opportunity to Ju En-ho. While Ju En-ho is preoccupied with the events of last night, another female colleague and a co-worker approach her, trying to persuade her to decline the assignment. But hearing about a 10-minute on-camera opportunity, Ju En-ho immediately agrees to go. Ju En-ho's task is to secretly film in a cold storage, capturing them loading mackerel into domestic boxes and disposing of any traces. She thought she would be on camera, only to find out she can only record audio. Before leaving, her female colleague instructs her to call if anything happens. At the site, Ju En-ho is horrified to discover a dead body and hears strangers' voices outside. She quickly hides in a corner but misses the best chance to escape. Ju En-ho ends up locked in the cold storage. She repeatedly called her female colleague for help, but her colleague, having drunk too much, didn't notice the phone. Ju En-ho tried texting her, but no one replied after a long wait. Her body temperature kept dropping. Ju En-ho wanted to call the police, but her female colleague had specifically instructed her to keep the matter confidential. Having worked for 14 years, Ju En-ho's only ambition was to make a name for herself. Fearing she might lose her job if she called the police, she dismissed the idea. Then, she suddenly thought of Jung Hyun-o and considered asking for help. She remembered Jung Hyun-o once saying one must learn to be independent. However, she was so frightened that she broke down in tears. Her male colleague arrived just in time, saving Ju En-ho from the ordeal. Ju En-ho pretended to be calm, acting as if nothing had happened. Unbeknownst to her, the text message she sent for help had already been seen by Jung Hyun-o, who was the one who found her. 37-year-old Ju En-ho is facing a career low. Her boss criticizes her for being older and brings a young, attractive woman to mock Ju En-ho, hinting she's just an old-timer who should have advanced but remains a regular broadcaster. Despite her efforts, Ju En-ho feels invisible. Previously, she could depend on her ex-boyfriend Jung Hyun-o, but now she's on her own. Her boss accuses her of baseless things and humiliates her when she tries to defend herself. He belittles her as the only female hire of her batch, expected to be either young or beautiful, yet she lacks qualifications and skills. Thankfully, Jung Hyun-o interrupts, causing the boss to back down. In the department, Jung Hyun-o is a key figure, and in his presence the boss acts submissively. Shin Jin-ye, favored by the boss, relentlessly criticizes Ju En-ho for her supposedly improper conduct at events, even calling a meeting to condemn her. Ju En-ho has only been on location twice, yet she's publicly ridiculed, with male colleagues joking she looks like she's on a comedy show. Interestingly, Jung Hyun-o always shows up when Ju En-ho is targeted. Shin Jin-ye claims Ju En-ho's actions have hurt everyone involved and demands an apology, positioning herself on a moral high ground. It was as if she would become the industry's villain. Ju Hyun-ho did not make excuses or have the strength to refute. She simply stood up and apologized to everyone. "I'm sorry for harming anchor Shinjinya's dreams. I just wanted to do my job well, but I still ended up embarrassing someone." The word embarrassing was meant for Jung Hyun-ho. The previous night, when Jung Hyun-ho rescued Ju Hyun-ho from a truck, he told her that dating her was embarrassing and hoped she could become excellent even without him. At 37, Ju Hyun-ho's life was full of hardships. Fortunately, she had a second persona, Ju Hyeri. Compared to Ju Hyun-ho, Ju Hyeri's life seemed just to be seeing the first light of dawn. Since staying a night at Kang Ju-yeon's place, he always remembered her. A day without seeing her felt like something was missing in his life. He approached Ju Hyeri and couldn't help but confess his feelings, although subtly, but Ju Hyeri understood. After parting with Kang Ju-yeon and returning to her workstation, a colleague accidentally saw her. Because of the distance, the colleague questioned Ju Hyun-ho the next day, even asking if the person was her sister. Everyone at the company knew her sister had died, so when her sister was mentioned, Ju Hyun-ho's eyes filled with a murderous look as her memories dragged her back. One day, Ju Hyun-ho's sister, Ju Hyeri, suddenly disappeared and was later declared dead by the police. Unable to bear the shock, Ju Hyun-ho spent her days poring over her sister's belongings. In one diary, she discovered Ju Hyeri's wish, revealing her identity as a second persona and her encounter with love. The dominant personality hoped to relinquish the body, as the second personality was happier. Kang Ju-yeon and Jung Hyun-ho met the dominant personality, Ju Hyun-ho, and called her by different names. Panicked, Ju Hyun-ho ran to the restroom, where memories of Ju Hyeri emerged like shattered pieces. Confused, she accidentally broke a mirror and fainted in the restroom. When she woke up, she was in Kang Ju-yeon's house. Although Kang Ju-yeon wanted to know what had happened, Ju Hyeri was unclear, since it was Ju Hyun-ho who had been conscious before the blackout. Kang Ju-yeon did not press further, and their relationship quickly grew warmer. Ju Hyeri, aware of Ju Hyun-ho's existence and her lesser happiness, wrote her a letter. One day, Kang Ju-yeon and Baek Hye-yeon attended a dinner hosted by their boss, where the boss behaved inappropriately. Kang Ju-yeon witnessed this and spoke up, earning the boss's displeasure. He later shared the incident with Ju Hyeri, who, upon collecting parking fees from the boss, deliberately provoked him into an extreme action, then reported him for sexual harassment. As a company leader concerned with his reputation and not wanting to be seen as a criminal, he pleaded on his knees for Ju Hyeri's forgiveness. Baek Hye-yeon, initially seeing Ju Hyeri as a rival, unknowingly became her friend. Baek Hye-yeon invited Ju Hyeri to a meal, and Kang Ju-yeon soon joined them. However, not long after, he received a call from his mother. Initially planning to visit her alone, Kang Ju-yeon decided to bring Ju Hyeri along. Ever since the death of Kang Ju-yeon's older brother, his mother had been mentally unsettled. Kang Ju-yeon always treated Ju Hyeri like a brother. Ju Hyeri had heard about this and promised to speak to his mother. She approached and comforted her. Kang Ju-yeon's mother gave Ju Hyeri a ring, marking her true acceptance into Kang Ju-yeon's heart. Watching Ju Hyeri stargaze, Kang Ju-yeon couldn't resist holding her hand. The next day, Ju Hyun-ho woke up to find a woven ring on her finger and read Ju Hyeri's diary entries about it. She casually tossed the ring aside. Ju Hyun-ho attended a team-building event and passed the park where her sister Ju Hyeri had once disappeared, triggering forgotten memories. Overwhelmed, she ran into the park alone at night. Ju Hyeri was reluctant to join a graduation trip, citing her disinterest in socializing, which she blamed for her lack of friends. Despite her protests, she went anyway. Ju Hyun-ho blamed herself for her sister's disappearance, which led to her developing a second personality. The following day, Ju Hyun-ho and Jung Hyun-ho hosted a show normally. When Ju Hyun-ho began to read a news segment about sisters, memories of Ju Hyeri surfaced again. She began to lose control of her body and nearly choked in the studio. But Jung Hyun-ho comforted and cared for her, pulling her back from the brink. Despite feeling unwell, Ju Hyun-ho finished the show. Seeing her nearly exhausted, Jung Hyun-ho took her hand and led her into an elevator. Inside, En-hao asked En-hao to let go and leave. Suddenly, a group entered the elevator, and En-hao instinctively shielded En-hao to hide her distress from others. En-hao remembered the happiness mentioned in Hyeri's letter. She felt a comforting sense of security throughout her body as the elevator doors opened. She did not let go. When the doors closed again, En-hao unexpectedly kissed her, and En-hao did not resist. Since the kiss, Hyeri never appeared again. Usually, En-hao would nap in the afternoon, and Hyeri would wake up. Now, En-hao slept straight through to the next morning. En-hao started acting like a boyfriend, taking care of En-hao's daily needs without any resistance from her. She gradually accepted him. En-hao would cook and tidy the house, and they shopped together like a normal couple. Due to her recent panic attacks, En-hao suggested a hospital visit. En-hao knew a regular hospital, but just as they arrived, En-hao received a call. This left En-hao to meet the psychologist alone. Initially, the doctor thought she was Hyeri, until En-hao clarified she was the main personality. The doctor realized the misunderstanding and began asking about Hyeri. En-hao then slowly shared their story. Hyeri and En-hao grew up together at their grandmother's house after their parents died. One day, Hyeri went missing after a meal with classmates. Her disappearance was too much for their grandmother, who passed away soon after. Since then, En-hao had been reading Hyeri's diary, discovering her likes and following her wishes by working in a parking lot. Initially, En-hao was just imitating Hyeri, but eventually, she completely became Hyeri. After learning the full story, the doctor diagnosed En-hao with dissociative identity disorder. The doctor then showed her a video from Hyeri's previous hospital visits. It was En-hao's first time seeing Hyeri's personality, and she couldn't believe it. She never thought her alternate personality would be like this. She didn't tell En-hao about her condition, and their life returned to normal. Meanwhile, Kang Ju-yeon hadn't seen Hyeri for several days and asked her colleagues about her. Although they didn't know where she was, one colleague found a cell phone in the restroom that En-hao had lost after fainting. They didn't know whose it was and planned to ask Hyeri when she returned, but she hadn't shown up for days, and her home address was unknown. Kang Ju-yeon said he knew where Hyeri lived and took the phone. After work, Kang Ju-yeon met the man he had spoken to previously, who mentioned talking to En-hao's sister. This led Kang Ju-yeon to search for information about En-hao. When he traveled to Seoul and arrived at En-hao's building, he witnessed a loving moment between her and En-hao. He couldn't understand who En-hao really was, whether she looked exactly like Hyeri or was playing a double game. En-hao and En-hao's relationship was warming up quickly. En-hao thought these days would continue, but unexpectedly, right after making plans to enjoy a meal together, En-hao received a call and abruptly said goodbye. This goodbye pulled En-hao back to the day they broke up. En-hao said the word that despite En-hao's pleas not to break up, he was resolute. The memories woke En-hao fully. She realized En-hao would never marry her. It was all an illusion. Suddenly, En-hao returned, knocked on the door, and suggested they reconcile. However, En-hao did not agree and rejected him, just as he had once rejected her. En-hao's family was large, with several elderly members. To others, living in his home seemed like hell. No one could stand the elders. This was why En-hao did not marry. His mother left when he was young, and he lived with his gambling-addicted father, who had accrued a lot of debt. Despite many hardships, En-hao had two friends who grew up with him. He dreamed of becoming a radio host and worked towards this goal. He studied in a noisy environment and worked part-time at a restaurant to support his family. One day, a fire broke out at home, and his father died. The father's debts, amounting to over 100 million won, had to be repaid by En-hao, who was still a minor. He promised to repay the debt once he turned 18. Touched by En-hao's sense of responsibility, the old woman who was owed the money offered him to live with her. She would cover his tuition and living expenses with the condition that he would take care of her and the other 4 elderly women in their old age. The 5 of them lived together, childless and with nothing but money. En-hao agreed to the old woman's idea and became a part of their family. Soon after, the fathers of his two friends ran away, leaving their siblings behind. Hyun-mu suggested to the old woman that they should stay. Gradually, the three fully integrated into the old woman's family, becoming familiar from the initial strangeness. The old woman's wish was for Hyun-mu to marry soon, but he was reluctant to bring a partner into such an environment. Hyun-mu believed he should be the sole caretaker of the elderly women, as he was the only one who could endure living there. To others, it was hell. So, when he received a call about one of the old women being hospitalized, he left after saying goodbye, but later regretted it, realizing he still loved Ju Yun-ho. Unfortunately, Ju Yun-ho was no longer the same person and did not give him another chance. What he once took for granted and gave up easily, he now regretted. Perhaps in an attempt to win back Ju Yun-ho, Jung Hyun-oh's radio station boss approached him to step down from the popular evening program. If he disagreed, they would cancel Ju Yun-ho's show. To preserve Ju Yun-ho's position, he chose to resign. When Ju Yun-ho learned of this, she confronted Jung Hyun-oh, thinking he acted out of guilt or pity. Ju Yun-ho had likely let go of her feelings for Jung Hyun-oh completely. Thus, she turned to Kang Ju-yeon, adopting the persona of Ju Hyeri to meet him.
안녕하세요, 강주현 씨.